Hey everybody, William over here with A.P.C Photography, and I'd love to talk to you today about what's coming up with cameras. Now, as we all know, there's been huge releases of cameras in the last few days, and please excuse all the excess noise. I'm at a location where it's just loud. Let's talk about what's happened recently. Everyone's shot at Sony. Everyone is taking a jab at being the #1 camera that's out there, and Sony's still the king. And here's a couple of reasons why. And then we'll get into the new cameras that came out that are very close to taking this slot away from Sony in the FX3 lineage of cameras. So one of the main reasons why the FX3 is still the #1 on the market and the probable best camera you can get your hands on is it has an escalating level to get you all the way to the professional cameras, meaning something that's $100,000. It can be used on professional sets as a B cam, A cam, C cam, and even a crash cam. Gimbal work, drones, on a ladder, hanging from the sky. These are things that you cannot do right now on any other camera and have the quality level that you have when it comes to producing raw video, if you're going to go through an Atomos recorder, or if you're going to do internal with S-Log. That being said, there are some new contenders, and Canon came out with a good one. Let's talk about that one real quick. I'm going to add it onto the screen here. Let's talk about the C70, the new full-frame camera. Now, this one is the first competitor that I see out there that is in line and capable of taking down or at least matching the spot with Sony's FX3. Now, granted, there are some advantages to the Canon and there are some huge disadvantages to the Canon. So let's talk about both of those real quick. Price-wise, you're going to save a little bit of money if you go over to this over the FX3. You're going to save a couple $100. Frankly put, I think that's a nice thing to have happen. You're also going to get a really nice body that has a reinforced mount, and I think that's a nice positive thing. It allows you to adapt the PL to it with less worry of any issues. Overall body is going to be pretty similar to the FX3, so you're going to get a lot of the same buttons, you're going to get a lot of the same adaptability, you're going to have a smart shoe finally. Now, if you see that button up on top or switch that says photo and video, this is going to be the detriment to this camera. You're looking at between 4 to 7 seconds in switching time between the two settings. That is going to be a huge problem in the hybrid world, whereas with the Sony, it's only a few seconds at most. And since you can switch it and switch to a memory setting on Sony, you instantly have the same type of menu switchover that you have with the Canon. The other part is the memory card slots. Notice it says CF Express and SD. Now, this may not affect most people who are working in a multi-camera situation where you could have a memory card failure, but I mean by multi-camera situation. Let's just say we have a gig that's coming up that's got 6 cameras on it. If I lose one camera for a small period of time as a memory card failure happens, not a big problem. I've got 6 angles to work with. But what if we're in the same show and we've only got 3 cameras? Losing one camera angle would be devastating. And that's where this CF Express and SD card situation can come into effect. One is you may run out of memory. 2, you may run out of fast memory. And say if you're recording in an all-live format and you need to have the best possible format, that's where you're going to get have a problem. The Sony, on the other hand, has 2 high-speed memory card slots, which allows you to simultaneously record high-fidelity, all-eye recordings in both slots at the same time. And you cannot do that here. You do have some limitations. So that is one area that kind of bites you. Now, the other piece that I think is going to be a strength and a weakness is going to be the handle. I find having all of my inputs for the 4-channel audio on one location really, really beneficial. And the handle from Sony allows you to do that. So you can have scratch audio, like I'll lav up a producer or director and have them in that 1/8 jack audio, which is 2 of the channels. And then I'll have my professional microphones and lavaliers in the other 2 channels. And the benefit of doing this is you will give your editor direct notes from producer, executive producer, or client in the video. There is nothing better than having that. If they're being told what to do, what the vision is, and it's right there, man, it's just night and day, and getting that input right away is huge. So having to split the 2 audio points, that's something I don't like. Now, as for the handle itself, oh my, this is the absolute best solution on the handle. My FX30 and FX3s that I borrow all have an adapter that I add to them from Small Rig that gives you that same looking thing, and the other half is all metal and the other half is plastic. It's such a big benefit having that loop like that, because you're going to have the ability to hold more weight and do better with it. Now, as for the inputs here, I've not played with these. Canon has been hit or miss when it comes to their preamps, so I hope this one's a hit, because it's really important to have great preamps. Sony just happens to have great preamps. One area too that I kind of like is this double notching down here. That's another plus. Canon does a good job there. About the only thing I'm not really digging is that the USB-C needs a tremendous amount of power to make it function the way it should. The reason why I'm on this website is because basically Canon's website's down right now, so I'm going to use their website here, and we're going to kind of go over a couple things that are really important. We're going to have 7K open gate at 30 frames per second. So if you're a slow-mo person, this is not the camera for you for open gate. That being said, if you want to do 120 and you want to do an S&Q style, finally in a Canon camera, here you go. They finally bring the S&Q into this type of a body, and I think that's an absolute plus. If you're using this for your photography, just know there's going to be limitations on flashes. Like I said, people are going to be clapping and other stuff here where I'm at right now. But it's going to be just a solid, positive, amazing camera for those there. You also get in it now the live streaming capability, which is another big plus. So if you are looking, or if you're in the Canon world and you are looking for a camera that's going to give you finally the S&Q and all the features that you see in the FX3, the A7, S3, here you go. Got a winner. Winner, winner. I mean, solid camera, nothing to complain about. I think everybody will be extremely happy with this camera if they decide to buy it. I do not see too many crews that we get hired on that have the need for Canon. So, for example, one of the reasons why I'm being hired on as a second producer for this next event is simply because I have 2 Sony cameras that are kitted and ready to go. I have access to Canon, I have access to everything else, but every time I turn around, I get brought onto a set, it's a Sony camera. It's not because I have Sonys. Everyone knows that works around me that I have access to all of the cameras. But, you know, I love the fact that Sony gives you more access. That being said, this is my bit on the Canon. If you love Canon and you've been looking for a smaller camera that's riggable, that could be a C cam, a B cam, or an A cam in mid-tier shoots that are, you know, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 shoots and produce high-level quality, here you go. Great camera. I don't think it's taking place in the King. Hear everybody clapping. It's a good day out there. I don't think it's taking place of it, but it's getting close. Now, the next camera I'm going to talk about is one that we are going to be surprised by. I think this next camera, especially with their partnership that's going on right now with Blackmagic Design. Oh, that was weird. That's going on with Blackmagic Design. And this is absolutely the shocker of the year for me. And I am rarely shocked by anything that comes out by any camera manufacturer, because I've been around cameras for a long time, since 1993. I love cameras. I love telling stories. This one, absolutely shocker for me. So let's bring up what the shocker is. Give me a second and get the share screen ready for it, because I kind of can't believe I'm talking about this camera. But here we go. iPhone 17 Pro. All right, let's just get right down to it. This is going to be a short and sweet, but also amazing story. Apple has been the bane of my existence. It's not been the cameras I liked using, and their phones have been terrible. Then they brought out these Pro Maxes that started having ProRes capability. So I started thinking about it and wanting to jump to it. But it didn't have RAW. It didn't have a log. Then they brought in the log, and I believe it was in the iPhone 15 or 16. And now, with their partnership with Blackmagic Design, they have turned this into my new entry-level camera. I will be purchasing, I think, 5 of these or 4. I haven't made up my mind yet. Most likely to be 4, but possibly 5. And they will not be used for phones. They will just essentially be cameras. And let me explain why. Blackmagic Camera app opens up this camera to use all 3 lenses, zooming capability with like a power zoom look, ProRes RAW in any frame rate, in any design, in any style you want to use it, which is awesome. ProRes LT, ProRes 422, ProRes HQ, which is nice to be able to work. Log, all of it will be available in that camera app, and those two have been partnering together building up this camera app, which is magnificent. Turning these phones into a professional camera for roughly $1,300, $1,400, $1,500. Probably do the $1,500 version because it's going to have, I think, a half a terabyte of data in it, which is going to be enough for me. But it gets even better. As we are running 4 cameras or 3 cameras or 5 cameras or 7 cameras, this thing called Gen Lock that kind of gets everything put together, and Time Code Lock gets everything put together in a way that they work properly, is now available on the iPhone. For all of the technical wizardry people out there that know exactly what I just said, yes, we have a Gen Lock camera for less than $2,000 once you get the piece on it. Actually less than $1,500 just for entry level. And it has Gen Lock on it. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to change my share screen, and we're going to go over to this dock. Here we go. You see this dock right here? This dock changes everything. So, as we all know, cell phones don't have Gen Lock, but this does. So one of these ports is a timecode port, and the other one is a Gen Lock port. These other 2 ports here are USB-C 3, and then there's a USB-C 2. There's also a 12 power plug port, so you can power this, or you can run off of a V-mount battery too if you have the right cord to connect that. So you heard me right, a V-mount solution. Just put it on the tripod, and I'll show you a little tripod looking thing right here. So you can just mount your V-mount here, put it on the tripod, and power it. This will go into your iPhone, and then all of a sudden you have Gen Lock, this, everything you need in some of the most unique perspectives you could think of coming out of the camera with an HDMI port, and now you can run an optical HDMI cable and then really get creative with it. These are things that really surprised me. So now we're looking at where I would look for crash cams or I would look for unique angles. I'm going to be able to do it. So I can actually now get there's some SDI adapters I probably won't be using, and a couple of other tools within Blackmagic that I'll be using. But now I can get angles that I never would have thought I could get before, like a podium angle. Imagine this. I am sitting a camera at the podium, facing it up, and I'm getting like the best podium shot I could ever have. I'm getting camera shots on drummers. I'm getting camera shots on different angles. We're doing auctions where there are so many imaginative things we can do with this dock with that camera. So that is my next best camera that just came out that shocked the living daylights out of me. Now the last one, and probably the most important camera that came out today, is you can pre-order now. Let's talk about it. Uh, I'm terrified of this camera because it's gonna eat in my pocket. It's gonna be. Yeah, come on. Da, 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 da. ZR. There we go. If you're looking for a mini red, here you go. If you're looking for something that's got ProRes RAW, here you go. If you're looking for something that's got a lighter version of RAW from its system, here you go. Let's talk about this. So they have R3D in a lighter version, which I call NE, right off the bat. That is amazing. 32-bit float. Nothing more but to collapse and say, this is awesome. 4-inch DCI P3 monitor. Now, for all of us who's ever used a monitor on a camera on a daily basis with their stuff, the little dinky monitors that come on it are not worth anything. That's why we get an external monitor. Because we want a color accurate monitor, we want something to see what the LUT looks like, and we want to see that we're getting everything in focus. The sweet spot's right around a 5-inch monitor. Even a 4-inch is great, and that's where we got a 4-inch right here. This is one of these pieces that's going to change the industry, and everyone's going to have to put a real monitor on there. Now, another thing that I find fascinating on this is they give you the LUTs, you get the Z mount, and the Z mount can be adapted to E mount lenses. I'll get to that in a little bit. The E mount lenses can work with the Z mount camera. I'll get back to that in just a second. They're dropping lenses with it. It's going to be amazing. We're talking color science. They are marketing it in the lineup of the red, so they are actually showing a way to move through the system. So we're looking at 12-bit and NE, so that's a lighter version. You're going to have the 16 bits all the way forward. 6K 60p. Now this is a key thing. That 60p works in any format they choose. Yeah! That part is awesome. 15 stops plus. Really, it's got probably 14 real usable stops and less of the highlight and less of the noise clipping issues, which is going to be super awesome. And now we go from, let's kind of go through these mounts here. In the Z mounts, you got like a $2,200 camera, then you go to like a $6,000 camera, and then you go to monster cost cameras. This is really nice to have that work through, and they've also got a B cam and a C cam to a Raptor. So this is becoming a real ecosystem, which I did not see coming. Color science, it's red. It's just the way it is. It's red. It's gonna come out good. It's gonna be great. Now, here we go. They brought in a smart design digital system and still use an analog system like we're doing with this right here, which is a 32-bit float recorder with an analog input, and getting amazing, when I say amazing sound, they're gonna get amazing sound. And then of course they're gonna say the high-end pro footage features, but here's one thing that's really nice. It's a 1,000-nit monitor. Now, for most of you who aren't doing a lot of outdoor work, you're going to be doing it in studio YouTube or interviews on the interiors of a building, 1,000 is not going to make a difference to you. Me being someone who goes outside, inside, and everything in between, that 1,000-nit monitor is huge. Now, will it drain battery? Absolutely. But it's worth it. So, that is just, I'm excited. We have a future that's going to be great when it comes to these cameras. Now, let's talk about the king in the room. All right, all of these cameras that came up were developed with the idea of removing the FX3 as the king of the entry-level cinema camera. When I say entry-level cinema camera, I do mean entry-level workhorse cinema camera. It can be worked in cinema, and it can also be worked as a workhorse camera for everything that you're doing. So if you are someone who is doing broadcast work, if you're someone who is doing all of any source of work, it is really the camera that you're going to need to get the job done. And let me show you the king. The king of all these cameras is the Sony FX3. And the Sony FX3 has been around so long, but it's still the king. Let me explain why the Sony is king. And some of you will say, I'm a Sony fanboy. Cool, congratulations. I'm good with that. But I'm going to show you some of the reasons why this is still the absolute king of these cameras. But it's very close to being dethroned if they get a few updates and if then somebody comes up with a few changes in their specific cameras. So, inputs are the same. Displays are, well, this display is not even the greatest, but it's a good display. It gets the job done, at least you can tell the color on it. But, get to the memory card slots. We got dual slots there, and we have more mounting points with these Sonys, and the cooling fan system is unbelievable. This has all 4 channel inputs, the handle does, which is huge. And then, let's get right down to it. I/O interface is really nice on this. This can stream right from the USB-C. A lot of other features. You can't get a time code adapter for it, so there's a lot to this that is great. This is a little bit older when they're saying that it's got the new unlocking of this, but one of the things I really like is it's got an all-intro format that is easily usable everywhere. And everyone knows how to use it. You have a 4K 120 that's not a crop of any type. These are pluses. The reason why these are pluses over everybody else is they're tried and true, they're effective, and they don't break. And I think that's the big thing. It don't break. If you've ever worked with some of the other cameras that are out there, I've worked with the C50s. Love the image that comes off of it, but that little toggle has been the bane of our existence because sometimes it just doesn't play nice and it kind of breaks. The monitor kind of breaks. The handle doesn't quite sit on right. Same thing's happening with the C80. You have to have adapted XLR inputs. These are a couple things that just do not work on set, whereas having the full-size one in the handle does. And now, granted, Canon C50 has that, and I'm very happy that they put that in there. But we're a little bit off of being able to call that the new king. I have to see it in workhorse mode. I have to see it function, because one of the things that I have found out with Canon is if you do not have the right amount of wattage going to the USB-C, 2 things will happen. One, your autofocus system will not work at its optimal capabilities. That sucks. I really hate that part. It's just terrible. You get better autofocus by having more power going into the unit, where Sony is effectively going right out the bat. Perfect. 2, the way that you choose manual focus with first-party lenses is better on Sony than it is on Canon. Because Canon has this arrow thing, which I think is phenomenal, which I thought was phenomenal until I used focus mapping. And that kind of works like this is doing right now, because everything you see is all that's going to be like the virtualized stuff, non-virtualized stuff, and everything outside the virtualized would be considered out of focus. With the Sony, with the focus mapping, and you know that it's correct, which is pretty awesome. That's one of the cool key effects of working with Sony. Audio, preamps. Man, we have all been through the preamp nightmare with Canon because I don't know what the manufacturer is, either perfect or it is not. And that's not very good for a camera that's supposed to be a top tier camera. Now, when you get to the C400s and the C300 levels, it's great. But for some reason, it can be hit or miss with the units below that. Don't know why. This could be manufacturing specs. And I really love those cameras, but it just could be manufacturing specs. Another big thing that's going to keep this camera from being the king, let me pull that C50 back up there. One of the things that's going to keep this camera from being king is, where are the memory cards? Here, memory cards. The memory card slots, come on. Only one of them is a fast memory card slot, and the other one is a V90 slot. And if anyone's ever used a combo V90 with a high-speed slot, A7 IV, oh Lord, the nightmares that come with that when you're trying to do recordings and you happen to accidentally go over the memory amount and you're in a high frame rate and all intra. Oh, yeah. Wrong SD card in that slot and you're toast. And that's a key thing, whereas the Sony has two high-speed slots. So if you go over one and jump into the other one and simultaneous record, not a big deal. And the nice thing about the Simo Record working two high-speed slots is you can remove the other card and throw another card in. When you open up the card slot, it doesn't shut down any memories or any functionality on the Canon. On the Sony, like the Canon does. And that's a huge thing on a production day. I want to be able to have the flexibility of switching out memory quick. Now, it being CF Express B memory and the Canon, that's going to be one of the advantages to that particular one, is that it's going to have that memory slot. And with it having that memory slot, it can do like a 1 terabyte for really cheap. But then again, I can get almost a terabyte of data with Sony's CF Express Type A for like $350. So we're talking fairly close to the same price. The two cards. And they work great. So that's the reason why the Canon's not going to take over the top spot. Their lenses are great, but they don't have enough third-party support on the full frame to make it worth their while. They have great support when it comes to cinema lenses, but not when it comes to anything with autofocus. Now, that being said, let's talk about the other camera that's in the loop that could possibly take out the king. And that's going to be the Nikon ZR. What are some of the things that is preventing the Nikon ZR from taking the #1 slot? Support. There isn't enough support sitting on the Nikon right now for it to take the top slot, and there's no fan. Now, no fan means nothing to me because I use an A7 IV and I use an adaptable fan system with it. Works great, don't overheat, so if someone comes up with a fan like that, we're 100% copacetic, not a problem at all. Terrible second memory slot capabilities. UHS 1 micro SD. Everything else I can forgive, but that I can't. It's not fast enough. It's far from not fast enough to make it work for us. And when I say that, so we're talking to Nikon here. This one here, the ZR. And I keep forgetting to click this because I'm used to having a producer click stuff for me, so forgive me. I'm literally out having a good time watching this at a sports bar, some baseball, and I thought I'd bring this up. The ZR is one of my most favorite contenders to taking the #1 spot in this media, but they're missing a couple things. And let's talk about it, because they got an excellent camera here. They are missing a top handle. 32-bit float without a top handle, that's a problem. Hopefully they come up with one real quick, and I think that's going to be a really cool piece that they're going to have with that. Only one primary memory card that's high speed, and the other one is UHS 1. That is a huge problem. Very, very light problem to me is the Type D HDMI. Now, if anyone's asking why that's a light problem for me, if you were a Sony user, you would understand. Every one of us Sony users had to deal with that Type D adapter for doing video, to going to a monitor. So that was an everyday thing. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull up the small rig adapter. Rig, D, HDMI to A. Let me pull this up here real quick. This is not a big problem at all. Let me explain why it's not a big problem. It's an easy solution. I've been doing this solution for a long time. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to change something real quick. And we're going to talk about this real quick. This is your solution. So anyone complaining about the adapter issue, please, you're going to put a cage onto this. And because you're going to do that, you're going to most likely get all the adapting cables you need, and this is by far the easiest solution I have ever seen. You mount it onto your cage, you connect it in here, you have a full HDMI port. It does pass through, even with Sony, these adapters will pass through raw. So it's going to pass the 12-bit and 16-bit data through, so it's not going to be an issue at all. Mount it to the cage just like this. This is how I have it mounted to my FX30 and my A7 IV. Because I protect the ports. All of the damage can happen here. It does not happen to the rest of the stuff, which is nice. You're not going to damage your camera. If this HDMI gets yanked, it gets yanked on the cage, not on the port. So if anyone's complaining about, no, this sucks that the XR has this, I'm sorry. I watched enough videos and I laughed a little bit, because that's just a ridiculous claim that that's going to be a problem, because it's not. So it's a little bit to me because I want an HDMI port built into the camera right off the bat, but it's not really that big of an issue. Accessories are going to be one of the things I'm worried about too. There's probably not going to be a whole lot to start off with, and without having a 4-channel top audio, that kind of is a bummer. And the no cooling fan, so if I'm running an 8-hour day, I'm a bit concerned about that. And I do run a few days that are 8 hours because we do live streams and everything else. So we're not limited to doing cinema. We're not limited to doing commercials and promotion videos. We're not limited to doing interviews and corporate stuff. We are a full-faceted organization. And for us, we have to have cameras that can handle the full aspect of doing video production. And part of that full aspect of video production is I need to be able to use it in a production like we did yesterday, which had 4 hours straight of video. Those cameras didn't stop. I was getting what I needed. I was getting my recordings. It was going to, was it the A10 Mini Pro? And I was recording the signal in there, and I was doing internal recording on the camera. I needed the great autofocus, I needed all the features, and I needed the great audio, and that all worked in that one unit. I need that when I switch to these cameras, because with my business, I'm doing so many things. I've also did a promo for a couple politicians. I did stuff for the Pier 62 in Seattle, which are promo work, and then I did gimbal work for the cameras, and we also did interviews for multiple organizations in Seattle. Long story short, we are really just workhorsing these cameras now. And in most cases, if you're in the non-movie making, non-documentary making, you're doing all of this type of work. And I don't think this camera can take place of the FX3 yet, though it's very, very close. If it had a cooling fan in it, this would be one that it would be on my order list for 26, and I would just say, okay, we're going to 2 or 3 of these and calling it good. And since it doesn't have that, it will go into my inventory though. I'll be getting one minimum for this to go in my inventory, but it will be something we're using for specific jobs where we know we can shut the camera off or at least not have it working more than 45 minutes to an hour at a time before we give it a 10 or 15-minute break, which is fine. We'll be able to make that work, especially when you're doing like promos and everything else. But I think that's going to be where we're going to bring the camera in at. It's going to be not a replacement, but an add to. All right, it has been 35 minutes. I cannot believe I did a live stream for 35 minutes while watching. Ooh, hell, it's 5-4. And we're in the top, we're in the bottom of the 11. Ooh! Ooh! Seattle's almost gonna get there. Look at that, Seattle caught up. Now we're tied at the bottom of the 11. So yes, I'm watching a baseball game, the Mariners game, while I'm doing a live stream. This has been fun. Thank you for watching. For those, I think I had like 4 people watch tonight. Thank you for watching. It's late night. I don't even know why y'all are watching, but thank you. How's it go? Subscribe, follow. Understand I put some crazy stuff out there, and for those on LinkedIn, thank you for watching. I'm here to always help you with any of your business needs, to tell you visual stories, to be a partner in your live events, and to also make it possible for your promotions and everything else to come out and be the best representation of yourself and your dream and vision. Y'all take care, peace, and see you later.